Damien. How are you, mate?
I'm good, Billy. How are you, mate?
Very well, mate. You have been ruffling some feathers the last couple of months, I'll tell ya. So
Yeah, I have actually.
I
Came out swinging, yeah.
a friend of mine, he said to me, "You have to get this guy on. This guy's been ruffling some feathers. This guy's been," and we thought, you know what, we'll get him on before he blows up because I know you've been chasing Portelli.
Yeah, I mark my words, Adrian. I will find you. I'm gonna build. I said to my wife, I said, babe, I promise you, I'm gonna meet this guy. I'm gonna build something for this guy. So,
Yeah.
and I will do it.
I have no doubt, man. You got the energy.
Either
you got the drive.
that, or he'll probably take like call his like this fucking guy stalking me. Just call the cops or something.
Didn't he follow you recently?
No, he didn't follow me. He sent me a message. I got a bunch of my followers were like, Portelli's doing a show. And message him. What am I going to say to the guy? Like,
Yeah.
hey, my name's Damien. Like,
And this is my Renault rules for people that don't know.
yeah,
The
so
show,
it's my Renault rules. I don't really. So I don't. I'll be very clear. I actually typically I hate reality building shows.
Yeah.
But in saying that, if I got the opportunity to be on one to dispel some myths about them, even for my own sake, I would.
It would be Portelli's.
And I think it'd be a laugh too. I've got a few guys. They're like, Jesus Christ, God help anyone if you're on that show, because I go into like that old Walkman, just like, what the fuck is this? What is this? No, but it'd be cool. Now, like, you got to message him and send me like, okay, I'll message. So I just put this video out because I know sometimes he watches my stories.
Yep.
And when I tag him, and he did, and he messaged back, and he asked for my details. Look, nothing might come of it. I'm not going to get my hopes up.
Well, you got to put yourself out there, right?
Dude, that's what I said.
You've taken the first step.
Look, he can say no. Like
He's messaged you. He knows you exist.
He does. He does now. He does now. So we'll see what happens.
So, Damien, you're a builder by trade.
I am.
20 years plus experience.
Yeah, something like it's about 2 decades now. I mean, I've been in the industry. This would be my 20th year. Mm-hmm. I started in the industry early. I was 14 or 15 when I started, working on job sites.
Straight out of school.
Yeah. So I never intended to be a builder, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I just always had jobs in construction. When you're young,
Yeah.
you got to work at school holidays, weekends, and stuff. And it was always being an Italian family, so everyone, the concreter, carpenter, builder. So I'd always had brickies, labourer, carrying gyprock, just general labouring. So I'd always had these jobs. I was 17, 18, finished school. I went to university to do a science degree.
Science degree?
Which I did, and I completed.
Like med science?
No, sports science.
Sports science?
Right.
That's left field.
I thought it was going to be...
Completely different.
Yeah. when I did that video about unis, the amount of messages I got going, you don't have a degree. And I'm like, well, actually, not only do I have a degree, Dr. Pejman Sharafi from the University of Western Sydney is actually a friend of mine, a personal friend and a huge supporter of mine. And someone we might talk about later. He actually helped me broker this hotel, this deal which we'll wait to see if it goes through, to build a resort in Hunter Valley. Oh, sorry, I forgot to put my sound up.
Nah, that's all right. Maybe we'll put it on silent so we don't...
All right, sorry about that, dude.
No, you're all right. Continue while you're doing that.
So... what happened was, So Dr. Pejman Sharafi from the UWS, he's the head of built environment. He's a good friend of mine, big supporter of mine. But yes, I do have a degree. Yes, there are some universities are general supporters of mine. I just wasn't sort of happy with how, I wasn't happy with, obviously, as you saw the video, with how we're teaching young builders and managers. But so I got a degree and I did carpentry.
So you finished the degree, and while you were studying, you were doing
my carpentry
while you were studying.
Yeah, whilst I was
studying. So you're at uni studying sports science, and at the same time doing a carpentry apprenticeship.
Yes, I was.
Man, that's full on.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough. I was very lucky. I did my trade with an uncle of mine.
Yep.
And so he'd give me time off, like my day off for exams and day off to study and stuff like that. So I managed to finish both of them. I did both of them, and I was about a year and a half into my trade. I actually wanted to drop out of uni.
Okay.
And I just said, Dad, I remember my dad was cleaning the gutters. I said, Dad, I want to be a chippy.
Is that because you were seeing the money come in?
No,
as opposed
to be
because
honest.
a lot of people, when you're at uni, there's no money. Like you can barely get a job because you're studying all the time, right? So
It wasn't, Bill. It wasn't. To be honest, I mean, the money wasn't amazing. I was good at it.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And I'd finally found, other than sort of at the time, lifting weights. That was the only other thing I found that I loved, and I was really good at it. And, I said to I just felt like I belonged on a job site.
Yeah.
I felt at home. I still to this day, I feel, and it's funny to say, I feel out of place in the world. The one place I feel where I truly belong is inside a site. It's something. So when I walk through those gates, it's just like that's my kingdom. Yeah.
So you approached your dad and you told him, I want to drop out.
Yeah, I said, Dad, I want to drop out. I just want to be a chippy. And
what was his thoughts?
I'll never forget. I was looking up at him, and he didn't even turn around. He just was kind of like half looked over his shoulder. And he goes, boy, he goes, be whatever you want, be a carpenter, be a concreter. He said, but finish your degree. And I'm glad I did. He said, son, just have something to fall back on. And there really wasn't much more than that. So basically he said, no, I'm not going to let you drop out. So I didn't. So I wasn't too happy about it, but I sucked it up. I finished my degree, and I'm glad I did. And it came in handy, and there's a story later on. There's a man by the name of Stephen Rogers, and he was an EGM of Adelaide Brighton. Later on, and he was a mentor at one time. He's now the CEO of Cleary Brothers, the mining company, Port Kembla. And he and having a degree is the reason I actually was employed by him at one point. He gave me an opportunity because I had a degree. And one of the lessons he taught, he sort of said was just get a degree, get a trade, get something. But what he said about it was it shows that you'll finish what you start. And so, anyways, I'm glad I got the degree. It came in handy.
Well, for a lot of large businesses and corporations, when they say you need a degree, it generally isn't for whatever field you've studied.
No,
it's just to prove that you can start and finish something.
That's how I see it.
So you can
now.
commit.
Well, it's that lesson that Stephen taught me. So Stephen Rogers says, you'll finish what you start, and you know how to articulate thought and critical thinking skills and problem solving, and that's about the whole of it. And I wholeheartedly share that same opinion now. The degree in of itself, I mean, without getting too much off track with the whole project management and construction management and how it's taught, but in general, I do hold the same opinion. So at the end of the day, you're going to learn on the job.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, it's like us in the hair game, right? Like you can study cutting hair in theory as much as you want, but until you actually hold a pair of scissors and you're actually cutting somebody's hair, completely different ball game.
That's it.
So it's always about learning on the job. I think that's the best way to learn, and that's the best way to apply yourself. So you finish your degree, you finished your apprenticeship, put the degree to the side, and went full in on the construction side of things.
Yep. And anybody who knows this will tell you, I was a sadist. All I did was work. My 20s, my late teen years and my 20s, I lived on a job site.
Yep. Were you working for a builder at the time?
So I started in carpentry, and then I went to formwork.
You did formwork.
I am out of framing, fit off, formwork. I'd probably say that I'm an amazing formworker. I'm a master formworker.
Yeah.
I'd be probably the next best thing is a great fit off carpenter. I'm a decent framer.
Yeah.
But
I did a bit of formwork back in the
day.
Yeah, I did a bit of formwork back in the day. Yeah, I lasted 3 weeks.
I loved it.
I was in between. This is before I got into hair. So I was a banker back then, right? So initially I was a banker because I went to uni and I studied business, and I finished uni and I got into banking. So, but in between jobs, I remember I had a period about a month where I was in between jobs, and my brother-in-law said, "Hey, jump on the job site, let's make a bit of money." I said, "Yeah, why not? I've got nothing to do. I've got a month to kill, so let's make a bit of money." 3 weeks, and I said to him, "Man, I don't care if you pay me $1,000 a day. I'm out of here."
You know what? I bet you, like, for everyone watching, I bet you about 80% of the people watching this just went like this because they remembered. Everybody our age remembered one time where a cousin or an uncle was like, "Boy, come do formwork.
Come do formwork, bro."
You did. I know you did. And if you did, I know you did.
Man, I feel like if you can make it in formwork, if you can get through and actually get a couple of years under your belt, you can do anything. So,
hey, so can I know this is your podcast, but please comment in this, like under the video, if this is comment, how many of you have done carried a sheet of plywood?
Yeah.
Just for everyone, right?
Yeah, so I feel you in that respect, man. So
no, so I did a bit of formwork, a lot of formwork. Wasn't a bit, it was a lot. It was for a while too, and then sort of slowly I was eventually I was a foreman, and then I got to a point where I'd been in. Like overall, like generally in my cart, so up until that point, I was 4 or 5 years, and then I said, "Well, what was the next step?" And the next step was being a builder, because the love and passion, like this just it was an obsession. It wasn't. I don't think passion is the correct word. The obsession evolved. I'm like, well, what's next? I'm understanding it more. I'm understanding the game more, and then I said, well, I want to be a builder. And so then I had to, and then that's when I sort of started really seeking out mentors and looking for opportunities. And I mean, there was a lot where I'd actually go work for people for free. And my dad taught me this. And this is something I think that like sort of the Gen Z and the younger generation lack, is I would go and work. I'd go and say to people, let me work for free for you for a month. Just let me show you what I can do. If you're not happy, don't pay me. I'll say, or pay me shit. I don't care. I just want to learn, right? And there were many times I actually took a pay cut, but I knew that gaining knowledge in the long run I'd earn more, right? But again, it was ultimately about mastering something. I knew it was going to be a long journey. And so sort of then it transitioned to working for builders, and then larger companies, and then eventually public companies, and then sort of became a project manager. And I was a senior project manager. And so it was a very, very linear journey. It was a very linear journey. To eventually, and I did some. You know what? I know some things that I did in that span that I'm really proud of. There are a lot of things that I did that I'm really proud of in that period. And I came to meet a lot of people, find a lot of mentors that still believe in me to this day. It's a lot of men that believed in me. But I just committed every minute of every day, just every 7 days a week. You know, I remember put to this point, so my grandmother had passed away, and her funeral was on a Saturday. So I went to the funeral, and then so sort of most sort of, you know, like ethnics, you know, you'll go back to the family, like, you know, it's probably the same for Lebanese. You go back with the family afterwards, and you sort of all, you know, have dinner together, and you'll talk, you know. And so, anyways, I remember it was my uncle's house, and then at about 7 o'clock, and I wasn't doing too well, like, you know, I was young, and I remember, I think I would have been mid-20s. I remember going to the yard. So I left. I didn't tell anybody. I left. I went to the yard. I got there about 8 o'clock, and I stripped columns till 1 or 2 a.m. I put my belt on, and that, like, it was even how I coped. I just worked. And it was an obsession. Like I said, I committed every day to, like, what can I learn today? And
So you really loved it.
You really loved
it, and you still love it. Yeah.
I
mean, to do that, you know, you must feel really at home on the job site.
I told you, it's where I belong in this world.
Yeah.
God made me to do what I do, and I'm, you know, look, I'd say this, you know, God, and I'm not going to say that I'm the most talented guy. I was not the best looking. I wasn't the best at talking. I'm not the best salesman. I'm not the best at marketing, and I'm not inherently great at a lot of things.
But you're passionate.
But God made me. God made me to be a builder. I belong on construction sites, and one thing though is that I just. I'd work harder than anyone. No, I wouldn't. I could not be outworked. And I mean, and I love the game more than anybody I know.
You spoke about being mentored a bit earlier. You had many great mentors along the way. How do you feel like they shaped you? Like, well, who was the most,
Oh,
you
that,
know,
you know,
who had the greatest effect on you? And what was it about that kind of shaped you into who you are now?
so there's one man in particular, and he's old. He's an old man now. Look, I had a lot of amazing mentors that I'm grateful for, and I still give thanks to God for those mentors. One man in particular, and he was probably my first mentor in the building game. He was a family friend. His name was Ivan Delabetta. He's still alive, but he's retired now. And in the first couple of years, I remember when it was still new to me, and I still remember, I remember him picking me up. I was a teenager, and I remember him saying to me, he goes, he goes, when you're never gonna leave. He goes, and look, I mean, he was brutal. He was the most brutal man I'd ever worked for. And again, I guarantee a lot of ethnics that have been in the game probably started. It was a very similar journey, and he would abuse me verbally. He'd throw shit at me all day. He just was he'd run me into the ground, and but I remember. There were lessons that I didn't understand till well over a decade later. One in particular, one lesson that stands out. And he would say to me early on, he goes, my job, and he goes, I'm going to come to work every day and I'm going to try as hard as I can to make you quit. Word for word. Your job is to not quit. And he'd say it to me every day, and he would make every day fucking hell. And I remember... So you go through the start, you feel sorry for yourself. Why me? And I remember I was like, one day I wanted to quit. I was like, and I still remember the bearer I was carrying, right? And I was like, no. I was like, I'm going to quit. And then I'm like, well, then I'll have to go home and tell my dad why I quit. My dad's going to say, well, why'd you quit? And I'm going to say, because it was too hard.
Couldn't handle it.
And like, there's one, if I told my dad I didn't enjoy it, I wanted to do something else, he wouldn't have had a problem.
So you're not quitting.
I've got to look my dad in the eye and tell him that I quit because something was too hard. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then I'm not going to give this prick, Ivan, and I love him to death. I'm not going to let him think that I'm a bitch and I'm quit. So I didn't, and I kept going. And I remember the first 2 years with that man were motivated purely out of hate. And so it took some time before I realized, hold on, I was good at it. He actually, funnily enough, he used to make me think I was shit. It wasn't until I went and worked with other guys, like on weekends or here and there, and I'm like, hold on, I really know my shit. Like, for the time, I was really good. I was like sort of, but he taught me a lot. He taught me, and secondarily, so the first thing was resilience, and that lesson, don't quit. And I still use that lesson sometimes. Just don't quit. Like, no matter what, survive. I will find a way to solve the problem. I will see it through if I just survive. Again, might not be, so the most well-spoken or the smartest or whatever, but if I just
keep
survive,
showing up.
I'll figure it out. I'll work it out. And then the second thing was how to learn. And I remember he would tell me, he was actually really, really arrogant. Yeah, he was really arrogant, right? He still is to this day. And he's probably going to watch this, right? And he knows I love him, and he'd say, you're never going to be as good as me. And he'd always talk about how good he was. And so I'd just go, well, and he'd say, well, I was a foreman by 21. I'd go, fuck you, I'm going to be a foreman by 20. Yeah. Like I said, I had to beat him. But again, I realised the lessons later.
You realised what he was doing.
Yeah, later. But at the time, I was just, fuck you, I'm going to beat you.
Well, it's almost like relationship with a father, right? Like when you're growing up, you think to yourself, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He's always putting it on me. And it isn't until you grow up and you have kids yourself and you're a bit older that you realise, oh shit, he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah, and that's
now. And that's why I am who I am today.
and that's it. So he was probably my most prolific mentor. Another man that was the greatest boss I ever had. Yeah. Was Clayton Kennedy, Aussie bricklayer. Like now he's an executive now, but he was an amazing. He still is an amazing man, and he still looks out for me. But I was very fortunate to have a lot of mentors, and if you were asking me on the spot to name them all, I'd probably forget half of them. Yeah. Right, and look, I thank all of them, and some didn't even know that they were mentors, but they were probably the standouts, survive and learning how to learn.
So you think it's important to have a mentor in the game, in the construction industry?
Look, it's very hard to find now. I'll put it this way.
We were talking about this a bit earlier off camera.
Yeah, we were.
About mentoring people. You had some strong things to
Yeah,
say in that regard.
Yes, short answer, yes. But I get a lot of people messaging me saying, I can't find a mentor. Guess what? A lot of the mentors I had, they didn't show up. Even Ivan, he didn't show up and go, I'm going to hold your hand and teach you. His attitude was, you should feel privileged to be in my presence. Now, it was very, like I said, it was very arrogant, right? But I made the most of it. I said, well, look, I'm not going to kiss his ass because I'm here, but I'm going to learn as much as I can. So to everyone, don't complain. You're probably not going to find a mentor that's going to come along and actually hold your hand.
Never.
You're not going to. I don't think I ever had a mentor that did that. Like I said, when I say mentors, I would just show up a lot and enough to where they go, oh, that kid's all right.
Yeah.
And you can tag along.
Maybe I'll teach him a thing or two.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, but, so what defines a mentor is how you choose to look at it.
Yeah.
I get so many young guys complaining on it. They think it's literally someone's going to come along, pick them up and go.
They want to be spoon-fed.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's the problem with a lot of the younger gens now. And this is part of the reason why I started this podcast in the first place, you know? Like, a lot of the young guys these days, they just want it now. You know?
They want to be handed.
They want it now. They don't realise that guy, that overnight success, or that guy that's driving that car, or that guy that owns that business, he started it 15, 20 years ago. You only heard of him now. You know, and I think that's the problem. There's a lot of the younger guys, they just want to be handed everything.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
So when they approach you and they ask you for mentoring, from my experience anyway, they're not really asking for mentoring. You know,
no, 100%. It's not. What they think a mentor is like, they want to be spoon-fed. They want to be handed it all, and then be like, all right, now you're going to be a millionaire. Like, off you go.
Come work for me. Come, I'll pay you this much. You know, you don't have to get yourself dirty. You don't have to think too much. And if you do this for 2 years, you'll be driving a Lamborghini.
What do you mean, 2 months?
But that's what they think.
And seriously, I've had guys after 2 months complaining.
What's going on?
What's going on? I'm like, I've been doing this my whole life. What do you mean, what's going on?
Man, I've had young guys. I've had guys in their early 20s, like, complaining that they're not successful at the age of like 21, 22, 23, you know?
Are you serious?
And I look at them and I think, man, like, what world are you living in?
But
And that's the problem, right? Well, that's the problem. Like, everyone wants it now, and they think that, and a lot of the younger gen now, they're falling into this downward spiral of, like, they're not successful by 21, 22, 23, 24.
They give up.
They give up.
Oh, it was too hard.
It was too hard.
It's like, you need to commit and you need to be, and the other thing that goes along with the whole, like, sort of what they think a mentor is, and being spoon-fed and instant gratification, right? Is they need to understand that. So this is my comment about the 2 months, right? Because their motivation's gone. It's not fun anymore.
Yep.
Guess what? 98.9% of my career, I wasn't motivated.
No,
And that's what I say. It was
it's
about
not.
showing up and surviving.
It's not motivation.
And
It's consistency, man.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
Show up every day. You know those mornings where you don't want to get out of bed? Get out of bed.
And funnily enough, man, it's been proven that it's not motivation that gets you going. It's showing up and doing it is what gives you the motivation to keep doing it.
Because success will come
because you
from
start to
showing up.
see results.
Yes.
You know? And then, okay, so I saw it 1%. I saw 1% today. I want to try and get 2% tomorrow, right? As opposed to, I'm not really motivated. I'm not going to work today.
So when I was a powerlifter, right, when I was younger. And we had this saying, right? We had this, we made our own gym and we called it Scumbag Barbell, right? It was a bunch of young guys. I was a good powerlifter when I was young. And so and in this gym we had this saying, it was written on the walls. It said, so take a PR when you take a PR. Like, even if it's half a kilo, like, you know, guys would be like, oh, like, you know. Like,
still a win.
And it's like you say you bench 200, yeah? It was like, you bench 200.5. That's progress.
Yep.
That is progress.
Yep.
And then guess what? Then maybe next week you might get another half gram. Sorry, half a kilo. I probably edit that out. Yeah, but you might, maybe next week you might get another half a kilo. Like, that all adds up. And it's those half kilos or 2 kilos that when you look at the end of the year and you look back and go, hey, I can bench 25, 50 kilos more. And it's literally, And I find it really poetic that I was a powerlifter, right?
Yeah.
I also find it very poetic that injury put an end to it and forced my retirement from competitive powerlifting. Because I do think that my destiny was to, sort of focus. I was supposed to learn a lesson from it. But all those lessons literally mirror, like from powerlifting, I put over to building.
Yeah.
And they parallel each other.
Yeah.
Like they parallel each other. Like same thing with going to the gym. But again, you will go to the gym for a year sometimes, and you're not going to see any progress. Then one day you put a shirt on, it's tight.
Yeah.
And you look in the mirror and you're like, fuck.
It's like little wins, right? Little wins.
Yeah, little wins.
Incremental. That's what it is. And that's the issue. That's what we were talking about earlier. But everyone wants it now. That's the problem. So if they're not seeing the little win, but because you're not seeing the little wins, you're not paying attention because they're so little that they give up.
They give up. It's too hard.
Yeah.
And so I fully agree with you on that. I do.
So you started social media recently.
Yeah.
It wasn't that long ago.
Oh,
and man, you've exploded.
Yeah. I've never really liked social media.
Yeah.
Right? And I'd thrown up a few videos, like started the business. So you start on Instagram. And you kind of like...
But what made you do it though? Like, did someone tell you, hey, you should start making content? Or you just decided upon yourself that I know a lot, I should kind of give back? Or
what
was the thought process behind it?
I don't... To be honest,
yeah.
The video, the first viral video I made, the day I made that, right, which was about 3.5 months ago, maybe 4 months ago. Like I said, I'd put some videos out before that, but when I'd suit up and slick the hair back and put a ring light on, and they'd get like 300 views.
You weren't being yourself.
No, look, to a degree, that is me during the day, right? Maybe not as refined all the time necessarily. But I just made this video about, how to quote, right?
Yep.
Or charging for quotes and when to do it. And it exploded. And then I was like, I just that day I wasn't busy.
So is that like out of the studio? Is that like, because you said your initial videos were ring light?
So we're in an office, ring light, like this setting.
Like this. So the first video that went viral, that was what, on a site?
It was me next to an art gallery.
You next to an art gallery.
I was having a coffee and a vape.
Just picked up your phone, started recording.
And I was just like, I'm going to try something different. I was just like, look, I wasn't busy that day. And bang, I was like, I looked at my phone a week later. Because I would never really check Instagram. And I was like, maybe 1,000 followers or something. I was like, what? So I tried it again and again. And literally every week that progressed. And then I got another viral video and another viral video and another viral video. And so I'm like, okay, every day I just, again, I don't have a producer or a videographer. I'm winging this. I'm learning this as I'm going. I'll just be walking and I'll film something. I'll be at a job. I'll film something. I just figured, and most of the times when I get a coffee and I'm like, okay, I'm having a coffee and I'm having 5 minutes. I'm vaping. I know we shouldn't vape. Don't vape. But I'm trying to quit smoking. So and I'll just film and I'll just think of something.
But it's authentic.
I guess so.
I mean, that's authentic, right? As opposed to ring light, camera, suited up, all that sort of stuff. That's authentic.
It's me.
And that's what people want to see nowadays, right?
Well, that's what everyone's sort of messaging me going, I watch you because it's authentic. And that's the word that everyone seems to be using. So I've kept it going. And I'm still getting viral videos and I'm sort of getting I've got quite a few podcast invitations now. I've got a few things in the works that have sort of been approached for that have been like, wow, I wasn't expecting this to happen. A bunch of new clients now, some amazing new clients. So a whole lot has just literally 3.5 months ago from then to now, things are exploding. Literally by the day, I'm like, fuck, another podcast invitation. Or there are a few other things I can't talk about right now, but there's some things in the works, and I'm very grateful for literally every one of them. So I'm trying to be as authentic as possible. But yeah, 3.5 months ago, 4 months ago, this was if that. Yeah.
So what I've noticed about your videos is that there's a lot of value in them, especially for young builders or even seasoned builders that are kind of lacking a little bit, because you're so real and you're telling it as it is. Even to people that aren't builders that want to build a home for themselves, you're adding a lot of value there. I think you put one up a couple of days ago about renovations. You know, because a lot of people have this mentality of like, I'll just buy a house and I'll flip it and I'll make $500,000.
Yeah,
You know?
The way I did the voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know I could do. I did that. Yeah. I'm trying to.
Is that what you see though with clients? Like a lot of clients are unrealistic. Is that
100%
why?
with renovations?
Yeah.
99% of people do not know what they are getting into. 99% of people, unless they've renovated before, okay, maybe not 99, but the vast majority, 9 out of 10 people, right, do have no. If anyone who's not renovated, people, again, this is kind of one of my gripes with reality building shows.
Yep.
Because what they portray,
It glorifies it.
It's completely, and it does injustice to the act. It does injustice to the actual process. Look, guys, I'm going to make something very clear. If you've not renovated before, renovating is a nightmare.
It's like opening a can of worms.
It is.
Yeah.
If you have an old house and you open up walls and ceilings and floors, you're going to find things that have either failed, rotted away, weren't done properly. It is a can of worms. You don't know what you were getting into.
Happened to a mate of mine just a week ago, 2 weeks ago. He bought a house and he decided to renovate a part of it, strip the walls, mold everywhere, rotted timbers everywhere, leaks everywhere, like everywhere.
Yeah, I
like
believe
he essentially stripped everything down. All that was standing was the framework. It's like a new build now.
I have seen.
But he just kept finding things, you know. Take this down, there's another thing and another thing and another thing.
Okay, so on that note, what I tell people is this. I say, look, when I start pulling walls, when I find something, I'm going to keep going. And people always in their head convince themselves
This is it.
that, he's going to find one thing or two things. And like they don't, and then I try to make it expressly clear.
Because it blows out the costs.
Renovating in most cases can, depending on what it is, can almost end up the cost of a new build. Depending on the age of the home, the size of the reno, certain things. Or like when I say cost of the home, per square metre.
Yep.
So a square metre for square metre cost,
Yep.
If not more.
Yep.
But when I start finding things, I've got to follow those things.
Yep.
Things get old. It's like an old car. Now, look, most people are living in homes with thousands of issues that you don't even know about. A little rot there, termite damage there, some your house is going to stand up. Houses are strong. You know, especially as the houses, and again, a lot of what I do is heritage. As the houses get older, they generally, right, with in Australia, they typically actually get stronger.
Right.
No, sorry, no. Cut that bit out because that's misleading. So typically with older houses, the further back the house was built, the better and stronger the house was built, and so the homes are very, very strong, especially homes built with locally sourced Australian hardwoods and sandstones, right?
Because they don't build out of that anymore.
No.
Like hardwood and...
No, not Aussie hardwood. Not hardwood at all. Unless it's like for a feature, right? So, and like even you know, Aussie sandstone and you know, like sandstone sills and thresholds, you know, archways, you know, things that would have, you know, in the past. So, and we used local materials because that's what we had available around us, right? That's the short of it. So, but you're going to find things, right? And there does come a point where, houses were, in my opinion, the quality of the construction declined very sharply.
Which is why once you start stripping, you start to
100%.
find more and more problems.
So there's one, that's one side, and then there's just the side of like sometimes things do just age and get old, right? But yeah, renovating, you need to be very careful, and it's just unfortunately people have a romanticized notion. You know, they try to convince themselves that it might be better than a new build, and a lot of times it's not. But so again, sometimes you're limited by funds, and I understand that. So what I say to you is, it's about how you plan it, right? So people don't. Okay, I tell you where people go wrong with renovations. They don't want to spend money or enough money and time investigating things. They jump straight in with an architect, and again, you start with an architect, get a design done. That's all good and proper, And when I say investigating, I don't mean with like a pest and building inspector. So it's just what they can see, and it's and again, in most instances, most pest and building guys aren't even builders or don't come from a trade, don't actually know much about construction.
Right.
I'm not discrediting them, but they're just good.
Very limited.
Very limited, a quick in and out, just some blatant, really obvious things. But most of them don't have, I know some really good ones, but most of them don't have the knowledge to really, and it's not their job to really investigate and follow things back down the line. you need to get a builder. I personally believe the best person is a really good builder to come in and spend time investing. So once you've investigated your home and you've really spent time and money on investigation, on diagnostics, and and coordinate, like, okay, what are the problems? What can we find? Maybe we should do some invasive investigation. I know you don't want to cut a hole in that wall and that wall and that wall, but it might be, sometimes it's going to be, you might find that you don't have the money to renovate.
Yeah.
But the problem, and so you can patch those walls up, because there comes a point where you can't back now. Once you rip all those walls open and you take half the walls and half the house is demoed,
you can't get back.
You can't go back.
Yeah.
And I've seen a lot of people put in really bad positions because they just bit off more than they could chew. And I go, well, had you spent 10, 15 grand, maybe, and this Australian thing. Everyone wants to run and jump into it. People don't want to and I know it's frustrating.
It's not their fault. I don't think it's their fault though. I just think it's just what they see. It's what they see online, what they see on social media, they look at builders and they look at people that flip homes and they think, oh, they're living a great life. It must be pure money. It must be easy. It must be, you look at most builders and you talk to a lot of builders, they look like they're living at large, but look at their bank account, they're negative 250K.
That's what they don't see, man. It's like, look, and
that's what it is. And there's a lot of things on social media now, like all these gurus, I'll teach you how to flip homes. And I'll teach you how to make $500,000 a year by flipping 2 homes a year, and it's easy,
I
and
can't
it's
stand it.
and you can tell they've never flipped a home in their life.
The amount of
and I think the other thing is I find the government here, there's so much red tape, man. There's so much red tape when it comes to a new build. Like, you got to go through council and CDCs and DAs and flood zones and certificates from everywhere. You end up spending like 50, 60 grand before you've even demolished, and I think that, for my opinion, can deter a lot of people away into I'll just renovate. It'll be a lot quicker because I don't have to go through that process.
I'll tell you a stat, right? So for people that don't know, so the new data has come out. Between 40 and 50% of whether it be reno or build or whatever, but in construction, so 40 to 50% of what you're paying is fees, taxes, levies, contributions. So half. Whether you're going to renovate or build, half of what you're paying, and again, this isn't that as a builder, I'm not imposing these on you.
No, of course.
These are government, so both federal, these are
they have to be
federal,
paid.
state.
They have to be paid.
These are costs imposed upon by governments, right, onto the consumer, not me as a builder.
Yeah.
I have to on pass it. Right. So half of what you're paying to build a house or renovate your house now isn't even going to your home or the builder or something. And I think that is absolutely absurd.
It's absurd.
That is disgusting.
Like this whole contribution thing for CDCs, and it's fucking ridiculous.
That is literally scratching the surface. If most people fully understood the level of overregulation that we in this country see, we have had this chronic issue of government. So we are in a housing supply crisis, or we are in a crisis.
So you believe we're in a crisis?
No. I can sit here and tell you the stats of this. And I came here wanting to pass on a lot of this information, hoping that people that most people that aren't aware of these stats, right?
Yep.
So, and that one of the stats being what you're paying, right? So you now know half of what you're about to pay, right, isn't even going to your home or the builder, right? Either or, okay. Which is absurd. Now, we have had a history of governments.
Yep.
I don't care Liberal, Labor. I don't. I get what I care about is who is doing the best.
Who's doing the best
for
job
our industry,
for the country,
right? Recently, what's been done. So our construction, the construction industry has been decimated over the last 4 or 5 years. Right, absolutely destroyed. We've had over 10,000 builders go bust. Record numbers, absolutely record numbers. Never in history. Right, have we had that in Australia? Have we had that many builders go under? Right,
it's crazy.
They go under so quickly, right? And something like the amount of overregulation, right? So there's been a whole bunch of reforms I've been really critical of because on the surface, what they're marketed to the average Australian as and what they actually are, two different things, right? Yeah. And they haven't been done for the betterment, right? Little sneaky things, right? Little things like, it's like, okay, like it's like they're posing, and I'll give you an example, right? I'll give you an example. So last year we had a couple of reforms, right? And under the guise, right, that hey, look, we're going to sort of fast track. We're going to fast track so planning controls in relation to zoning, so we can sort of open up more land for more housing, right? And you think, well, that's great because, right, I do think that a lot of land is incorrectly rezoned. Why is it? That goes back to infrastructure or a lack of infrastructure, and whether it be just a blatant lack of, or it is infrastructure that needs updating or improving, and that's either been sort of that there was plans for that have been scrapped, or there are no plans to improve, right? So, and basically, and so in a nutshell, what these part of what the reform said was like, look, if you've got R2 zone land, right, it'll function. It'll function, and it'll function as an R3 block, right? So basically, like, look, so R2, so it's lower density housing, right? Well, basically, so it's we'll consider it to be medium density housing, being that you can now put
dual.
You can do more than a dual. Like, typically speaking, most R2, a lot of R2 blocks, if you've got the space, you can do a duplex. But that's pretty much the extent. That's the limit. It stops there, right? So when something is R3, you can do multi-res, right? You start to do like sort of low-rise apartment blocks or townhouses, right?
Yeah.
8, 10, 12 townhouses. So we go from sort of duplex at max to now. So people are going, okay, well, this is great.
That's great.
Lots of R2 land. Yeah, well, you'd think that, right? So you think, look, there's all this land. This is going to open up so much land. This is going to open up so much land. So we're going to get more housing, because to try to get land rezoned is actually really convoluted. It's a long, drawn-out process. Now, of all the councils that these reforms were made applicable to, there were 100, so it was 120 or something, 124 or 125 councils or LGAs, right? These new reforms applied to. Now, there was an exclusion. So there were four primary exclusions, right? So where this didn't apply. And I'll tell you those LGAs: Wallandilly, Hawkesbury, the Lower Mountains, and Bathurst. Now, why is that significant? Well, those 4 LGAs, have you been to, do you know where Wallandilly is? Camden, Picton Way?
Yeah.
Right, I live there, right?
Yeah.
Hawkesbury, Bathurst, there's a lot of land there.
A lot of land.
Right, so...
I was in Bringelly yesterday, and I was
Yeah.
looking around, and I said to my wife, we're out in the St. George area fighting over 300 square metres.
Yeah, you
look
are.
at all the land there is here, and they're talking about a shortage, a land shortage or housing crisis. Like, it's crazy.
And I'll tell you why. So, and the primary reason that it was said, the reason that the 4 LGAs with probably the most available land to be rezoned in the state, right? Well, at least to benefit Sydney, right? The Sydney Metro, like the Sydney Basin.
They're the ones they're not rezoned.
Right, now it was all bushfire. Primarily, it was like bushfire. I tell you what, that is bullshit. Now, I don't know. People don't consider this. 200 years ago when Captain Cook came here, so it was bush everywhere.
There's bush everywhere.
Yeah, so we have more than enough planning control measures in place. We know how to deal with bushfire. What makes, it's kind of frustrating. There are bushfire prone areas, right?
Yep.
And we have zoning maps and we have planning control measures, so we can control that. Now, I don't fully agree with that, because a lot of the land in these areas, that these 4 LGAs that I just listed, are actually sort of just really grassy along, so grass. And then you get grass fires are a thing, but really undulating, sort of rolling hills. A lot of it was pastoral land for cows.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of dense bush. There are spots of dense bush, but a lot of pastoral land. So like how much? So it's grassy hills. We could deal with.
It's not like the Shire.
Now exactly. I'll tell you why. But look, the short of it is, all of Sydney at one point was prone to bushfire. Yeah. We dealt with it, and this is what gets me, right? This is what people don't say. I'll tell you why those 4 LGAs. Tell you why those 4 LGAs. Those reforms weren't made applicable, because that would fast track tens of thousands of eligible homes, right? Or lots of land eligible for lots of homes. There's no fucking infrastructure. There is not enough roads. There is not enough highways, potable water, sewer.
They don't want to build it.
NBN, blah, 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 et cetera, everything. Infrastructure, services, utilities, okay? they don't exist, and they should exist. And so that's why the 4 LGAs with probably the most available land, again, that's accessible sort of to come into Sydney, right? To be linked into Sydney, to give housing to Sydney. So see what I mean? So that you said you're fed that, oh, look at the reforms that are being put in front of you. We're doing something about it.
People on top of each other instead of like.
So we're going to make the dense denser. And I sum up all the reforms, the last 24 months of reforms. Like, we're going to make the dense denser with bugger all consideration to where are people going to park?
Yeah.
All right, where are people going to park? Sort of roads. We're not getting sort of more. You can't really put more roads in a lot of these places that are so densely packed.
You can't put more parking spots either unless you build giant car parks, which they're not doing.
They're not. Stormwater, sewerage, potable water, all right, electricity, like the list goes on. So what the thought towards infrastructure. So we're going to make the dense areas even denser, and we're just going to tell everyone that's enough. And in a lot of the case, and then, a lot of, heritage sort of, and beautiful. And again, I am a master, part of what I do, I'm a master heritage builder. Heritage is then put at risk, right? We don't need to make the dense denser. I mean, look, I am all for progression, I'm all for innovation, I'm all for growth. I am pro-development, right?
But there's a lot of land out there.
But there's a lot of available land.
We don't need to.
And if we had the infrastructure, we could rezone that land. Yeah. And it should be.
So you think they just don't want to build the infrastructure?
I mean, look, I don't know the behind the scenes of the state government. But in a housing supply crisis, you cannot have housing without infrastructure, without roads and utilities. Why aren't the roads and utilities being built? Now, I'm sure that there's some red tape laden bureaucratic answer to that. That's probably all bullshit. But if there's infrastructure, then you make land available. You make land available. You build houses on them. It's not a complicated equation. Like, I'm really bad at math. I'm not great at math. I can do the math to do my job.
Yep.
Right. Part of what my job is, right, is calling part of what my job is calling up bullshit. We can build land there. I can do the math to tell you that all of that tens of thousands of acres should have already been rezoned. Right, Bradbury. So then we talk about the satellite cities, the 6 satellite cities, right? And even that, like, without sort of going off on a tangent, but let me rewind into a previous comment in saying, because otherwise I'll go off on too much of a tangent. But back to what I said is that most people, the average Australian is fed like this guise of a solution. Like, look, hey guys, we're coming up with a solution, but the problem is most average Aussies sort of don't
really get it.
Anything underneath that, right? And sort of hidden within these proposed solutions are sort of within, I guess, the fine print. However you want to fucking think about it, it's just most of these solutions aren't actually what they're chalked up to be, right? And you cannot regulate your way out of a supply crisis. The only way is supply more. And so that's what all of that yap that I just gave was about, was that we need to build more. Very simply put, we need to do what we need to do so we can build more. We can, like the amount of, and I can't remember the number off the top of my head, and I used to be able to, right? But the amount of new the new regulations put in place with regards to Australian standards, the NCC, planning controls across the state, without the rescission of old controls or redundant controls, we're layering on top and top. Like, we're layering. Again, you as a consumer, you're going to pay for all of this administration. I deal with 200-year-old homes, right? Do you know how many pieces of paper they had 200 years ago, 150, 100 years ago? They're lucky to have one. Yeah. Most of the time, it's a guy just going, yeah, it should be right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Still standing. Yep. Now, I'm not saying let's scrap controls, but
it's too much red tape.
Too much red tape.
Yeah. And do you think that's part of the reason why builders are kind of vilified today? Because a lot of people, the clients especially, they look at builders and they think, oh, all this guy gives a shit about his money. He's slugging me $1.5-2 million to build a house. He's putting $1 million in his pocket. But we just said, like, half the money's going to fees, right?
People think we print money. Most builders are actually struggling right now. Yeah. builders that rely on client work are really struggling. People, the average consumer, sort of will go back, talk to, say, young families. They'll go talk to their mum and dad, and their mum and dad will generally give their experience of building their first home. Again, it was much more streamlined, a lot less red tape, and so again, there is the average consumer now doesn't realise the amount of bullshit and red tape and bureaucracy builders have to go through to get something built. And then record keeping, because builders and developers alike are being demonised. There's good and bad in all, right? But when you demonise an entire industry, we are now put into... So everything's geared towards ass covering. Anytime that something sort of happens, right? And we'll talk about the Opal Towers. We'll talk about the combustible cladding issues that came up. So over the past few years, these issues that came up. And basically sort of, it was seen the state government had to react. We had to be reactive. And so what they did was they put all builders and all certifiers on blast. Everyone. And then, some bad things happened. Bad things happened. But demonising an entire industry because there were all oversights in planning control and regulation, right? But then you go and put everybody on blast. So you know what you've inherently told an entire industry to do? We have to cover. You're out to get us. Even me, like the amount of procedure I have in my own business that is geared towards protecting myself from what if a client turns on me? Which, like I said, I have pretty amazing clients, right? What if the building commission is going to come after me? And I've had, and you could be the best builder in the world, right? And now so the state government actually increased, so with regard to when you warrant a home, generally it says most warranties are about 7 years, right?
7 years home.
So exactly. Right now it's been different items will be covered, like what an air conditioner is warranted to, versus sort of what waterproofing. You might have 15-year warranty on waterproofing, 7-year on an air conditioner, 7-year on a roof. But let's just say generally people, it's like 7 years. Most items 7 years, right? That warranty has now been extended to 10. So me as a builder, I've got to protect myself for 10 years.
Yeah.
So you could be the 7th owner of a home, ring me up and go, hey. And again, you could be a very reasonable.
And houses naturally over a decade
get old.
They get old. Things happen. Things break. Like it's
exactly things
naturally.
It's
not the builder's fault.
Yeah, but look, if you haven't maintained something or something has been neglected or misused for
which is what you said. It might be the 5th, 6th, 7th owner of this house, right? But it doesn't matter. Like the builder fucked up.
Yeah. So now you as consumers pay for all this. You pay for the arse covering now. And what I made a comment, I said, if we deregulate standards and controls and ordinance and all this sort of around, and we actually because the only place there was a deregulation in trade certification. So we've seen in everything this over-regulation, right? What it takes to become trade certified now, that's been deregulated. So it's even easier. So hold on, so what you're doing is, then this is again, state government's going like in a nutshell, I'm generalising here, but we need more. Hurry up, guys! Be carpenters, be bricklayers, just be whatever you can. Yeah, let's give everybody tickets. Let's just sure. Yeah. Right. Okay, so again, generally the education, even managers and that I've criticised, right? The quality of that's decreased. We're getting worse and worse quality people coming into the industry, or whatever, however you want to look at it, and then the demand and the level of controls are increasing. How do you think those two are going to, how do you,
you got a bunch of guys that don't know as much.
And now they're more
and the regulations are up here.
It's just a fucking mess. Yeah. And I said, okay, what we need to, again, let's 150-year-old houses, 4 pieces of paper. Let's deregulate. So with regards to standards and controls, right, if we bring back, right, pride in workmanship, the level of workmanship, mastery of trade, what it took to be a journeyman, right? We sort of try to re-inspire, reinvigorate a generation of tradesmen and women to again, and that's part of it. That's a partly romanticised notion, but it's something that has existed. We could do again. We need to inspire a generation. We need to educate better. We need to improve quality of education. We need to improve quality of how people are trade certified. Also, we need to work out a better way to certify builders, because what it takes to become a builder is a bit bullshit, right? Now, if you improve the quality of the builders and tradesmen and women, right, and you deregulate, so you streamline and optimize standards and controls, right? You are going to get a better result, because you can't get so the 7-star energy efficiency mandate, right? So it was mandated. So basically now it was a 5-star energy efficiency and thermal comforts. So it's, sustainability. So your basics basically, right? Right, what was a 5-star minimum? Now it's a 7-star. People weren't even getting 5-star right. I mean, again, the average person doesn't know this. I worked out, so the difference in cost to go from a 5-star rating to a 7-star rating on your thermals, thermal comforts, energy efficiency, all the sustainable stuff, right? You're looking at anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000 increase in cost of construction. They were the numbers that I came up with. Yeah. Most people weren't even getting the 5. We had a lot of builders couldn't even get 5-star. Yeah. Right. Again, execution was terrible, and most places weren't achieving that. And so the response was, well, let's just increase the rating. No, what if we just again improved execution? And I can tell you, a lot of homes that may have been designed at 5-star were not achieving 5-star, right? But just by increasing, see what I mean? See how there are all these disparities and disconnections? Yeah, I know it's kind of tedious, boring stuff, but it's all very important. Right, and just on the deregulating the controls and standards and the building code, or even just like what it takes to get an approval, like a big huge bottleneck is approvals going through council, and even certifiers to a large extent aren't coping, right? And so there's so many proposed developments that are all held up, right, pre-approval stage, and so there's this gigantic bottleneck. Things aren't getting approved quick enough. But a lot, again, it's like sifting through, even for a designer to design with all of these things in mind, it's just a mess. Do you see what I mean? Even painting this picture verbally, it is a mess of words.
So how do you feel, where do you feel like we're headed if we keep going down this path in Australia?
It's going to get worse. Let me tell you, at the rate we're going, I have, as best as I can, I've looked at, unfortunately we can't be here for 8 hours, right? But I've looked at all of sort of proposed solutions thus far, and none of them are going to work. They're not working. They haven't worked historically. We've tried a lot of some of these things before. They're not going to work. They're because the ideologies and the way we're looking at things, it's we need a common sense approach. We need to realise, if I smash my head against the wall, right? Just keep smashing it against the wall, and the walls, I haven't knocked the wall down, maybe so. What option A? Can try. I'm going to stop smashing my head against the wall. Try something different, or B, keep smashing my head against the wall, hoping that it's going to work. You get what I mean? It's just so. Let me tell you, there's been solutions proposed that I believe would have worked, but they've been ignored, right? What's being proposed as potential solutions, not going to work. I think we're going to see, it's a very generalised answer, I think construction quality is going to get worse. We're going to see even more regulation. You're going to see the cost that I said before of 40 to 50% for tax, levies, fees, contributions, blah, blah, blah. I think that's going to increase because current government we have just seems to think that they can that they can regulate their way out of this supply crisis. Going to India, I don't see how that works. I don't see how, people look this up, right? Last year, and it's a funny one. This is true. So, even as a builder, and you would know this yourself, most of now the tradesmen we use, they rely on skilled immigrant labour. So, last year it was put forward, said, hey, with immigration, now instead of prioritising, so it's IT and engineers and blah, 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 like white collar. Let's just call it white collar. Let's prioritize blue collar, skilled immigrants to come in first. They get priority over things. Dog walkers and yoga instructors were put in front of bricklayers. True. Go look it up.
Like at the moment?
No, this was last year.
Last
I don't know
year.
if they've reformed. I don't know if they've changed it, but last year,
We'll put ahead of bricklayers.
it was bricklayers and skilled tradesmen, like skilled tradesmen.
Yeah.
But you can look this up, and so dog walkers and yoga instructors, and like if you had been on LinkedIn, there was a lot of hoo-ha on LinkedIn about it, and I remember looking it up, so that this list of this priority list was put forward, right, by the government, debate and basically outlined like, okay, who we're going to give priority to. And so people had started going through it, and they're like yoga instructors and dog walkers. We needed them more. So if you're a bricklayer and you're a dog walker,
they get priority.
and it's like I've got one spot left. Only one of you who is going to contribute more to this
Society.
society, the dog walker, the yoga
walker.
instructor. So I'm saying.
Well, I mean, therein lies the problem.
They're like, does that like it?
That sums it up.
That sums it up. Like, what more can I like say than that? And there's. I don't know how are things going to get better. The leadership we have in place, they're dealing with things like that. Like that's just, I'm trying to educate. Yeah, I'm trying to use my channel to educate. I can only educate so many people. I can only inspire so many people, right? I think so, and by that sum, I believe really, really good builders are going to be more sought after. Yep. And their costs will go up. My costs, I even over the last 12 months, my costs have risen. And how selective I am with clients is exponentially risen. I'm very much like there's a sort of almost an, I screen, I choose my clients now. I reject far more than I take on. And I think that will, for across the board, right? And I think that what you're going to see is you're going to see a disparity. Good builders are going to become almost inaccessible to the average Aussie. Yep. And I think you're going to be left with a plethora of poor quality builders to choose from. But that's going to be like, that's it. Like, I don't think too much of spec and project home builders anymore. I think the quality of the volume builders has sharply decreased. I remember 20 years ago, 20 years ago, volume builders they produced some amazing stuff. And like what I see now is absolutely appalling.
Quality's gone down.
But again, too, I understand, but they control prices, they're stretched in terms of management costs. And so I'm not going to completely say, well, it's their fault, because there's a whole bunch of, issues they're facing as well. But they're trying to pump out affordable homes in an in an industry where things are unaffordable.
So you just think things are going to keep getting more expensive?
Worse and more expensive. Like I don't know how else to put it, and I can't articulate the words. I'm trying to give like this really like sort of this poignant, eloquent answer, and I can't. It's just going to get bad, worse. It's going to get worse.
Which is going to drive the price of
costs are going to go up. Yeah. For the average Aussie, you are going to.
So you think 10 years, 15 years time, the average Aussie won't be able to buy a home?
Well, look, in terms of buying a home, see that's.
I mean, if the costs of building go up,
Look, I think the direction we're headed. I think building a home and like if things don't change. So this is why I think we need to embrace things like modular construction and a lot of construction technology, right? But again, we've got a banking system and an approval system and a state government or federal government. Really, that's very sort of, we have a very stubborn and regressive industry in general, right? There's this culture, we don't like new things. And so it's been very hard to roll out modular. And then again, it's saying, yeah, we're looking at it, but it's taking too long. So Sweden or Switzerland, 84% of homes built are built with using MMC, and that's modern methods of construction. So being modular or prefabulated, 84%. It's like 84%. 80 is the number.
What are we at? Like 8%?
Oh, fuck, I can't even remember off the top of my head, but it's like it's pretty much a single digit or a low teen. It's something appalling. But if you look it up, I mean, Sweden or Switzerland's percentage of construction that is modular or MMC, and you'll come up to 84. I've seen some 87, 83 numbers, but it's about there. And so we're so regressive. We don't like new things. So if we don't start embracing modular, embracing modern methods of construction, embracing construction tech, because that right now are the most viable, realistic solutions to our problem, right? Combined with a couple of other things on the regulatory front. Building a home is going to be a luxury. Mm-hmm. I don't mean a luxury home, as in it will be a luxury for a person to ever build a home. If you in your lifetime get to build a home, it will be a privilege and a luxury. Mm-hmm. And I think we're going to just have, and then by proxy, if we're not building, then the stock of homes that we have now are just going to be, obviously, like you said, more unavailable. If we're not building, I think it's going to get more unavailable, and also in terms, I don't think they're going to age well. I think they're going to have a lot of maintenance issues. I think maintenance costs. I think there'll be a huge industry for maintenance. I think in about 10 to 20 years' time, I believe that if you get into maintenance, you will be make an absolute fortune. And I don't know if that's a good thing, but if things have been so poorly built in 2 decades' time. The maintenance of building will be, that industry is going to,
Good thing for people getting into it.
Yeah, if you're like, I don't know, if you're a young guy now, look at starting the maintenance business.
Yeah. Well, Damien, man, we could go on for hours.
Yeah,
you got that much knowledge to share. We could go on for hours. Maybe we should run this back and do a part 2 at some point.
I'd love to. Bill.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if I spoke too much.
No, man. Like value. All I heard from you is value, and I think a lot of people are going to gain a lot out of this conversation that we've had.
I hope so, man. I hope I didn't waffle on too much.
But let's definitely run it back and do a part 2 fairly soon.
Bill.
Thank you, Damien. It's been a pleasure, brother.
You're a legend, mate. Thank you.